everybody. Welcome back. Today is Tuesday, if you are watching this as it broadcasts, and welcome to 2023 again. I'm glad you're starting off the year here with us, although this is not a terribly fun topic this week, but nonetheless, with Jesus, all things are possible, and we will get through this together, especially if you're subscribed. So if you're on Facebook, then go ahead and like this page and change your notifications according to the instructions underneath this video. If you're on YouTube, hit your subscribe button as well as your notification bell. And if you're on Talking Donkey International's website, go to the podcast page and bookmark it. And that's what we'll do on that site until we have a more formal subscription option. Well, if you tuned in yesterday, and why wouldn't you have, right? Go get it. It's probably right here on the same page. Go watch it if you haven't already. But if you sat through that, you know that we're talking about children this week, and we're recognizing that the world does not treat children very well, especially this past few years with the global health crisis. So we're going to continue to look at some of the ways that our children have experienced these past few years, and then measure that up against the Bible and see if we can identify what's happening here. So I'm looking at this article from the Daily Wire. The title is "Study Shows Pandemic Saw Rise in Firearm Injuries Among Kids." That means like shot with a gun. And as I was reading my way through this, I was trying to find a specific reason why, a specific reason attributed to this phenomenon. You know, like everybody was home and so safety measures weren't followed, or everybody was home so their stress level was high, or, you know, kids were unattended because school was closed so they got into trouble, or whatever, right? But this article doesn't actually do that, to my maybe consternation. Let me read from it here to give you an overview of what it looks like. Okay. A new study showed another disastrous effect of the pandemic on kids, a spike in gun injuries. And then down here, the study one underneath that. The research discovered that there were 1,815 firearm injuries in a given period prior to the pandemic, while there were 2,759 during the pandemic, which was a 52% spike. And then it goes on to say there are no significant differences when you break down these victims by sex or by household income or rurality, right? Whether how rural or urban they are, or region or mortality or intent. Although it did find slight statistical variations in some categories, like it claims more non-Hispanic black children, as well as kids aged 0 to 5, as well as apparently kids with public insurance as opposed to private insurance, seemed to fare less well. They had more injuries in those particular cohorts than the statistical average for whatever reason. And this article doesn't go too much into what that reason might be. The conclusion to that is this really highlights the fact that the leading cause of death in children and adolescents is firearms, which is surprising. I mean, I didn't know that. I think there is room to qualify that, and forgive me if you don't exactly see eye to eye with me on this, but since we're talking about the children and the problems they face, it is relevant. This would not be true for adolescents, but for little kids, newborns, babies. The leading cause of death is abortion. And let's not let this go by without acknowledging that. As horrific as these firearm injuries totals are, the reality of abortion in America is that something like 300 times more than that number, 300 times that number of firearms death happens annually for abortion. So this article is not about that. This episode is not really about that. But that's a topic near and dear to my heart, so let's at least acknowledge that that is true. Okay. This article also talks about this phenomenon. The homicide rates of children have also been going up in recent years, a separate study found. The rate had gone up each year on average 4.3% since 2013. Yikes. And it increased even more from 2019 to 2020, going up 27.7%. 27.7%. I mean, that's monstrous. And so that is not specifically gun-related deaths, firearm-related deaths. That's homicide, broadly. So, like, firearm deaths and injuries are a subcategory of that, but this is just kids dying at the hands of other people. And so it is remarkable that that has gone up so much as well. And I'll read from another paragraph from the article. This person, co-author of the editorial with the study, told the New York Times that homicides of younger kids typically happen inside or close to the home. They are most frequently carried out by people taking care of the children and parents, and are also many times connected to neglect and child abuse, and show the stressful situations of families. I don't think we're doing a good job of taking care of families, and it shows, this person notes. And so this article is not good news at all, is it? I mean, this is just a mess, and it is painting a picture of the human family, that the American human family, that is simply not good. That somehow it's like we go out of our way to try to protect the kids in the pandemic. We shut down their schools, we close everything because the children, they're going to be hurt. They have to protect them. But what did we do is we put them in these situations where everybody's stressed out, everybody's exhausted, everybody's terrified. In many cases, the money has dried up, and on and on. I mean, you lived through the pandemic as well as I did, and the kids are the victims more than anything else. And so we have to compare this against the Bible. I made the claim yesterday that if we view the things that happen on earth through the lens of the war in heaven from Revelation 12, verse 7, that there's really only two characters that make of any importance, right? There's God and the devil. And what comes from one does not come from the other, and vice versa. So do any of the facts in this article sound like they come from God? I would say clearly no. I mean, God is not interested in shooting or murdering children. God wants to bless and prosper the children. And so then, just like we asked yesterday, what would be the devil's end goal here? Why would he be behaving this way toward the kids? And I would like to look at two stories. They are really the same story from the Bible. They take place about 1,500 years apart, but they are very much like a type and antitype kind of a thing. And they show us where the heart of the devil is, really. It occurs to me that the devil has been up to this for a long time. And here in Exodus chapter 1, we read the following. Starting in verse 20, and talking about the Hebrew people living in Egypt just prior to the birth of Moses. Okay, it says, "Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people, the Hebrew people, multiplied and grew very mighty. And so it was, because the midwives feared God, that he provided households for them. So," in verse 22, "Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, 'Every son who is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive.'" So right from the beginning, we see God's people are becoming numerous, so the devil tries to stamp them out. out. And at the time, I mean, gender roles were very different, much more traditional than they are now. So the men were the workers. They did stuff. They were the useful slaves. But also they were the potential threats. They're the ones who can rise up in rebellion. And so Pharaoh doesn't want that. So he murders all of the baby boys to kind of cut the threat off at the beginning. Well, when we jump forward 15 centuries, we see the exact same thing in the context of the birth of Jesus. So I'm reading from Matthew chapter 2. The wise men have journeyed. They have met Jesus at the house. They have given their gifts. And then an angel appears to them at nighttime and tells them to go back home by a different route and not go back to see King Herod, because he is seeking Jesus to destroy him. So all the wise men go away, and in verse 16, then King Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise men, was exceedingly angry, and he sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all of its districts, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the wise men. So there you go. When the devil feels threatened, when the devil feels like he is under attack from God's people, what does he do? Old Testament and New Testament alike. Ancient world and the less ancient world. But what does he do? He goes after the kids. He wants to wipe them out. He wants to cut off any resistance to his plan at the knees, at the feet, and not even let those people grow up. So here we are. We're in the 21st century. I believe we are very, very close to the return of Jesus Christ for a number of reasons. I think the world is screaming at us that that is the case. And what do we see? From like every angle, society seems out to get the kids, to rob them of education, to murder them with guns, to subject them to abuse and homicide. And we're only on Tuesday, guys. So we have several more weeks of this topic left to discuss. It seems clear to me that as God-fearing Christians who are seeking after righteousness in these last days, we are being pointed directly to our kids. They are being victimized left and right from like every angle right now. And that's where our attention needs to be. Will somebody think of the children? I hope you will join me in thinking of the children in these troublesome times. And so we are exposing the devil one day at a time here, and I hope that you are fully subscribed to these messages, because we are going to come back tomorrow to continue this discussion, and we will arrive at hope. I promise. We are not going to journey with the devil and then leave with the devil. We are going to ultimately figure out how to put the devil in his place and how to achieve victory through the Lord Jesus Christ. So make sure you are fully subscribed to wherever you're watching this. I am Steve Hicks, the Director of Podcast Ministries for Talking Donkey International, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow right here. May God bless you.